Okay, so here we are back in SPQR land. This is the second scenario out of the Truceless War from C3I magazine. This is the battle, not that one, the Battle of Hippacritae. The rebels are sieging, again, another city. And once again, Hamilcar comes forward and engages them. And the rebels have had a numerical superiority, except that we have a Numenidian prince. His name is Narva, or something like that. Narvas. Got a substitute counter for him. That's okay. But I did notice one so first thing I notice is, hey, with the units, etc., this battle is not too different from the last one, just a little larger, maybe? Not sure how much larger. The rebel force, I think, is a little bit bigger. Hamilcar's force is actually... He's got that big line of elephants still, and he's got more cav, not just a sacred band over here, but he's got these Numenidians here. The rebels also have some cav, though. They have some Libyan cav over here, and Numenidians and mercenary light cav over here. One thing you notice, though, is that Carthage is set in one line, and that includes some light Numenidian, or some light infantry, as well as their heavier stuff. Well, the heavier stuff is still that Carthaginian levy. None of this is terribly good, and none of it is something you'd really want to bring to the battle. So once again, Hamilcar is going to be relying on his elephants and his cav to give him the advantage here. So I think it's going to be a very similar battle. If I hadn't started pulling the counters out already, and that's a very painful process, I probably wouldn't have fought this one. I don't see a lot of difference in this. One thing I noticed when I looked at it is, hey, I cheated last time. One of the special little rules in here is not this one. Previous battle is the rebel command, and this applied to the last one. Only their overall commander, Spendius, and again that's a substitute counter, is able to issue line commands. That would have applied in the last one. That applies in this one. It certainly weakens their ability. Not that the last battle wasn't a blowout already. So I don't know what kind of chance they have in this one, but I'm going to fight it out. Tactical quality, well, the armies look bigger. They're both at 72. If they take 72 losses, they fall back. So these are somewhat larger battles. But to me, one of the more interesting things is the Carthaginian line doesn't have a line of light skirmishers in front of it, whereas the rebels do. They have some peltists, the ubiquitous, horrible Balearic slingers, and some Numenidian lights, no javelins there, some Cretans. You know, I guess I'll fight it out and see what we get out of this. No details on this one, it's a larger battle. Alright, so this is the first game I've seen yet, probably because of those wonderfully high-ranked Roman leaders, that both sides have equal initiative leaders for their lowest-ranked leaders. Mago and Leonidas here are both 4s, which means I had to roll off. Carthage got the higher roll, so they have the first initiative. Now also, with my better understanding of the rules, I can't issue a line command to these elephants. Another thing, I want to move first. So my feeling is I'm going to move the Carthaginian leader, because what I would normally do is move forward and say, Now I'll roll for a momentum and see if I can do a line command. Well, that's not allowable here. So, because of the placement of the Carthaginian leaders, I want those elephants moving, and I don't have a leader sufficient to move all of them. I may branch a few of them off under Mago, but for the most part, I'm certainly not going to launch this infantry line to where it might interfere and get ahead of the elephants and make it hard for them to move through. So, well, I'll start moving things and we'll see the forces begin to come closer together. Okay, so here we are at the end of the first turn, and you can see the rebels have hardly moved, whereas Hamilcar slid his forces forward. The only thing the rebels did was they pulled their line of skirmishers back 1 hex. That's just a matter of the elephants were at the perfect range to get some outflanks, and I figured let's make them pay whatever they're going to pay to attack if they're going to attack my line. I didn't see any reason to move the rebel position. Now, there's a risk to this, which is that the edge of the battlefield is more dangerous being near that because of routing. It gives you less time to rally your forces. But you know, there are a decent number of leaders, but there aren't so many that I'm going to be able to afford people running back into the backfields to rally forces. So I figured it would be better to hold my position, as it were, and not get the elephants any kind of advantage. Pull back that 1 hex. If they want to try to position themselves for that advantage, that's fine. But the problem here is the rebels just do not have anything, like in the last battle, to face the elephants. There's not much that can. Elephants can face them and chariots can face them. That's it. And on the attack. And they don't really have any... They have a weaker cav presence. The cav that Hamilcar's brought into the battlefield is so much stronger than both numerically, well, on this side. He's got Numenidians, but also qualitatively, the Sacred Band and the Numenidians are both very good, whereas all we have that's equivalent is a couple of Numenidians back here. So, you know, it feels like I'm outclassed and outmaneuvered for the most part. The best thing I can hope for, I think, is let them attack and see them maybe damage themselves a little bit, so that the one thing that I'm superior at, which is my infantry line, is a little better than theirs. Actually significantly better, I mean, but I don't count the Carthaginian levy as being necessarily going to do more than just mop up. Now, in the last battle, we had a line of lighter troops that the Carthaginians had, and that bore some of the fighting. In this battle, we don't have that. We have some light troops over here that are just a little bit better. And we have, there's some Mauritanians, which, no, they're the equivalent of the levies. Well, no, they're a little better than the levies. So, on the wings, we got some stuff that may be better, but I'd really rather not be counting on it. And for the rebels, it's the infantry line that they're hoping to break. So they want to wear the, especially the elephants, out on their initial attack. Well, the rebels continued delaying, and so did Carthage, moving just a leader forward and not taking anything. So finally the rebels actually launched a single cav unit to attack here on the flank. It might be a throwaway, but they did a lot of damage to the Numenidian cav that they hit, doing 6 cohesion hits. And now that kind of opens things up. If the elephants activate, the cav can pull away. However, it'll take cohesion hits for running from something in the flank. And Carthage took its payback, drove that unit out, but also slammed into the rest of the cav. Now, one of their Numenidians was defeated in his routing, but they drove one of these light Argos cav, these are Libyans actually, back, And they also hit the Libyan line, the right flank there. They got a die roll of doom roll, but no real effect. So we'll be going over and seeing if the rebels want to try the same kind of game. There's less room to do it, so they probably don't, against the Carthaginian right. And we got the first charge of the elephants, and they scattered the slingers. The slingers ran before the elephants even engaged. But some of the other light troops, these guys routed as well, but the Numenidian lights actually held up pretty well, routed one of the elephants, which then berserked into them, but still didn't dislodge them. And now we're in the position where we could launch an entire line forward to hit the elephant, one wing of the elephants. And I think that may be the only solution here, is don't give those elephants a chance to try to recover. Hit them with what I can. And then prepare the second side of the battle, the right flank, to do the same kind of action. Because in the last battle what we saw was the elephants just had a chance to recover from their first blow, and then, you know, they just never were wiped out. There was a lot of damage done to them, but they were still a sufficient force to wipe out the entire rebel army at that point, probably. We don't want to see that happen again, I don't think. So at the end of Spendius's command, we see he smashed into those elephants and drove a couple of them back here. Some of them are gone here. Got a whole pile of elephants dead. I wouldn't say that's a complete waste. He lost a slinger when he tried to rally it, but got most of his rallies in as well. I think he did a pretty good job on them. He hasn't wiped out the elephant line, of course, but it's now engaged, which means there's more of a chance of knocking it out. And that's gonna, you know, give some pause to Hamilcar in terms of, can he afford to charge forward with his next line? He probably can, because he can probably arrange to rally his elephants after hitting here. He won't be followed by Spendius, as opposed to whoever launched this, Hasdrubal, who really had to go before Spendius, so he suffered an attack on his side. We'll see if it goes a little better on the left flank. Okay, well, here we are at the end of the phase, and Hamilcar moved his elephants up, got his attack in, drove pretty much all the lights out of the way on that left flank, and then he pulled up his line of levies. They may actually be forced to fight. So we've got the holes where the elephants were broken here, so we may get to see just how well they hold up against better troops. On the other hand, those better troops are a little tired from having fought the elephants, so we're not sure that that medium infantry line is going to do that poorly. And one thing to note, let's see, medium infantry does not get an advantage against lights, and lights don't get a disadvantage against mediums. So it's as if they're the same. Now, it's not quite, I don't think, because mediums hit on an 8, whereas lights hit mediums on a 6. So the combat result table itself is slightly skewed in favor of the heavier units, but they don't have that big advantage that, like, the legionnaires did against these mediums, for example. Move the right flank cav up as well, and we've got some units routing, of course, over here and over on the side here. Might even have that Numenidian routing there, although they'll get a chance to rally that. Let's look at the points here. 2, 4, 6, 8 on elephants, and 9 for the rebels.